All right, let's just dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking something that is deeply misunderstood: student laziness and the hidden reality of academic burnout. If you've ever felt completely, utterly drained by expectations, or maybe you're trying to figure out someone who is, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to look closely at the data and the psychology behind why so many students are literally hitting a wall, and more importantly, how we can practically break this exhausting cycle.
Okay, stop being lazy and go study. We've all heard this universal childhood phrase, right? I mean, it sits right next to finish your vegetables in the parenting playbook. But we really need to ask ourselves a fundamental question here. Is it actually laziness, or is the student's brain just totally exhausted from immense pressure? An insightful piece from the Times of India points out that burnout doesn't just announce itself loudly. No, it sneaks in. It starts with homework taking a little bit longer, then needing extra breaks, and then suddenly there's just a total hatred for a subject they used to love.
Now, from the outside looking in, this often just looks like plain old procrastination and avoidance. To an observer, it looks like a bad attitude, right? Like a kid just staring at the exact same page for an hour. But the internal reality is actually much darker. What looks like a lazy attitude is very often just a really convincing costume for sheer exhaustion on the inside. Basically, they're drowning in expectations. It's like they're running an endless academic marathon without ever being told, hey, it's okay to walk for a bit.
Part 1. The roots of academic pressure. Let's look at where all this pressure actually comes from.
To truly grasp this, we've got to define the hidden engine behind all this burnout, and that is test anxiety. Formally, it's defined as a psychological condition encompassing cognitive concerns, emotional turmoil, and physical manifestations associated with examination scenarios. Now, let's be clear. This is not just getting, a little nervous before a pop quiz. No way. This is a condition that fundamentally alters a student's cognitive performance and their emotional well-being. It basically hijacks the brain.
And the clinical foundation for this is brilliantly highlighted in a recent study by Indrila Maiti, published in the International Journal of Indian Psychology. This research specifically digs into the exact cognitive affective pathways, basically the link between perceived parental expectations, test anxiety, and academic distress among college students. The researchers essentially wanted to know, how exactly does pressure from home translate into a total breakdown at school?
So, looking at the data objectively, we see exactly how external expectations interact with internal stress. Notice the first row there. Parental pressure and test anxiety have a moderate positive relationship. But drop down to the third row, test anxiety and academic stress. This is where the real story is, guys. The relationship there is a strong positive. This points clearly to the mediating role of test anxiety in student life. Think of it this way. Parental pressure acts as the spark, but test anxiety, that's the fuel that creates a massive fire of academic stress. And the math behind that emotion is pretty startling. That strong positive correlation of 0.633, that is the statistical proof that test anxiety is the absolute primary engine driving academic stress. What the researchers discovered is that yes, parental pressure directly causes some stress, but it overwhelmingly operates by ramping up a student's test anxiety first. And once that anxiety takes hold, academic stress just absolutely skyrockets. And here's the crucial point. This anxiety doesn't just stay trapped in the mind. It manifests physically and emotionally. Students experience this constant, heavy fear of failure and inadequacy, which leads to persistent feelings of helplessness. They literally feel out of control. Physically, this translates into tension headaches from pure cognitive overload and severe sleep disturbances. So they lie awake worrying, which leads to exhaustion the next day, which makes studying even harder, which creates more anxiety. You see it? It's a devastating loop.
Now, another comprehensive study, this one by Anjali Desai from Pioneer Academic Publishing, underscores just how deeply embedded this competitive academic pressure really is. It looks specifically at adolescents in India, highlighting how this pressure absolutely thrives in collectivist societies. Because in these cultures, academic success isn't just about landing a good job, it's heavily linked to family pride, social mobility, and honoring your parents. So the stakes for these students feel unimaginably high. Because an exam isn't just an exam, right? It's literally a measure of their worth to their family.
All of this immense pressure obviously forces students into coping mechanisms. Now, positive coping involves things like time management, setting realistic goals, and actually seeking help. But when the stress becomes way too much, students default to negative coping. We're talking avoidance, procrastination, ignoring the books entirely, relying on energy drinks to cram at the very last minute. And unfortunately, these negative avoidance behaviors,
They are exactly what adults frequently misdiagnose as mere laziness. Part 2. The power of saying no and setting boundaries. So, according to resources from the School of International Business and Sciences, setting boundaries is incredibly hard for students. Just look at this list and ask yourself right now, are you a people pleaser? Do you find yourself agreeing to every single extracurricular activity or peer favor out of a fear of rejection, maybe FOMO, or just deep-seated guilt? We're all taught to be kind and helpful, sure, but when you say yes to everything, you spread your energy dangerously thin, and that directly fuels the exact burnout we were just talking about.
But here is a highly practical script you can actually use today to protect your energy. It's called the delay technique. Step 1, don't rush into a yes. Step 2, simply say, let me think about it, or I'll check my schedule. Step 3, decide calmly. This is so great because it brilliantly breaks the habit of agreeing just out of sheer social pressure. It gives your brain a crucial moment to pause and ask, wait, do I actually have the bandwidth for this, or am I just trying to avoid disappointing someone?
Now, if a hard no still feels way too difficult or aggressive, here is another fantastic tool, offering a smaller alternative. For example, you could say, hey, I can't write your part of the assignment, but I can help brainstorm ideas for 10 minutes. This allows you to protect your own vital energy and study time while still being a really collaborative and helpful friend. It's basically a win-win boundary.
Part 3. Building better support systems through systemic solutions. Because the burden of change doesn't, and really shouldn't, just fall on the students. The research makes it completely undeniable that we need systemic solutions here. Schools need to actively implement stress management workshops, not just obsess over test prep. Teachers must set realistic expectations and avoid those overly competitive classroom dynamics that just pit students against each other. And, absolutely critically, parents must prioritize their child's self-care over perfect scores, and openly frame failure not as some massive disaster, but as a completely normal, necessary learning opportunity. By fostering open communication and reducing these purely competitive metrics, we can actually dismantle this anxiety trap together.
So, I want to leave you with this provocative thought to help reevaluate your own academic journey, or maybe the journey of the students in your life. Are you actually lazy, or are you just running an academic marathon without permission to walk? It's time we stop labeling exhaustion as a character flaw. I urge you and those around you to protect your mental health, set those firm boundaries, and above all else, give yourself the grace to rest. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this reframes how you view the pressures of learning.